You guys, okay, this is your tutorial for your mason jar, wildflower mason jar. Now, I'm gonna do the standard wildflower mason jar, but if you got a custom one, it's gonna be the same concept, but your flowers may be a little different. So you can watch the flowers that I've got and then apply it to the flowers that you've got. And use the colors that you picked from your paints or stains, whichever way you're gonna go. So if you've got the standard kit, then you got the stain colors that I picked, which is basically, I gave you a lot of colors. I decided to go with just, you're gonna get, you don't need a lot of stain with a lot of colors, so you're gonna get a little bit of stain with a lot of colors. That way you get to play. So I'm gonna bring this down. You don't need to see me so that you can see this. So what I'm gonna do, you with your mason jar have lots of insides so that it is thick and it can fit lots of flowers. Now you can practice on any one of these pieces that are on the inside here because it doesn't, you don't see these pieces. You can also go ahead and glue these together if you want. I'll probably glue off camera the main piece. And then I'll glue the flowers in on camera. So I'm just gonna set those aside. And I'm gonna start with the greenery in the jar. Let me start with that. You may have seen, I've got a lot of tutorials on these flowers, so you may have seen this, some of this already, that's fine. And what you're gonna need, so you're gonna have 2 brushes in your kit, a big flat brush and a detail brush. You can use any of your brushes at home, that's fine. You're gonna need water. I suggest getting a paper towel, and you're gonna need something to paint on that you're not worried about getting messed up. You can use your table, you can use anything that you want. You can put down a plastic garbage bag, that kind of thing. And then you can open all of these up. Be careful, they are not, they're gonna be a little thinner than paint. And sometimes you may find it easier to cut these apart. I wouldn't cut the lids off because you're not going to use all this up, but you may choose to cut them apart because it will sit better for you. Yeah, because it's already kind of tilting over for me. I'm not going to do that because I don't have scissors, but I'll be fine. And I would suggest, if you don't have it, go get a plate. I'm not gonna get up. Actually, I am gonna get up. I'm gonna pause this, go get a plate and scissors. Okay, I'm back. I got my plate, I got my scissors. I would probably be careful cutting these. I'm gonna hold both lids. They're gonna fly if you don't hold them. Okay, it's gonna be a little easier for me to manage because there's not as much stain in these. See how you can set them on the plate with the lid on the edge. Now I'm gonna cut these with them closed. That's gonna be a little easier. All right, and then carefully open them and just set them around the edge. And the plate is there to do 2 things. One is to have a place to blend with water, and 2, you might wanna do some stain mixing. So definitely would get a plate. You know, I like these plates like the Dixie that have the plastic on them. I know it's not quite as environmentally friendly, but it does prevent the plate from soaking up the color and wasting the actual stain. So see how these kind of set up against the edge? I kind of like that. Okay. All right, stop shaking them around. Okay, so now let's start with the greenery. Now on this piece, You don't need to do the base part because this is what it's going to look like. You just need to do the greenery, and you need to do these outside leaves. You need to do the front and the back. Now, if you don't like this burn part, you can sand it first. I'm not going to do that because the way I'm going to assemble mine, you're probably not going to see the back. You can assemble them two ways. I'm going to explain it now. That way you know if you want to paint the back. So you can assemble it where you only see the front, and it's going to look like this. See how the wildflowers are near the back? Okay. It's got a finished look on the back, so I will stain the back, but you're not going to see the back as much, right? And this will sit like this. Or you have the option to put this in the middle, like this. And then you could put flowers on the back here and flowers on the front, and you could set it anywhere you want, and you'd see both sides. If you do that, you need to plan to paint the backs of your flowers as well, which I'm not going to do on this video, but I'm telling you now, as you paint, make sure if you plan to do this configuration, you're going to see the backs of your flowers, so plan to paint them. Okay. All right, so you have green stain. Now, if you like this color green, great. If you want it a little bit more yellow, you could add a little yellow to it. If you want it a little bit more cooler tone, you could add some gray to it. There's also this color, spearmint. You could add some spearmint to it, a little white to it. You could do anything you want. But what you do want to do is wet your brush really well. You always want to have a wet brush when you do stain. You're going to dip into your container. You see how little bit of stain I got on there? That's all you need. Like, how do I explain what I just picked up? It's like a, gosh, how do I even explain that? That was not even like, maybe like the size of the end of your brush. That's probably a good way to explain that. That's a good way to start. And then I mixed it in on the plate. And then I just go ahead and start coloring. Right on. And what I keep doing is dipping into this little puddle that I made when I mixed. And then you'll run out of that puddle. Whoops. And so then I'll dip into water again. I'll dip right in the corner of my stain. Blend it together with the water right here on my plate. And then I'm going to go right over here. And I felt like it was a little dry, so I just kind of wetted my brush a little bit. Now, I don't worry too much about brush strokes at this stage because I'm really just trying to lay on color. And if you notice, I'm moving a little bit fast. I'm gonna go get more color. Stain is not paint. Stain is stain. And what stain is doing is it's literally staining, right? Stain is a noun and a verb. Excuse the dog. Hang on. Okay, so stain, what it's doing is it is soaking in to the wood. So if I were to wipe this right now with a paper towel, the color is still going to be there. See? You get a little bit off, but the majority is going to stay. So it's soaking into the wood. And that's what gives you this kind of look that you get when you get with the stain. Now, what that means is as soon as you touch the wood with the stain, it starts doing its thing, right? So you can't just put a little bit on and stop, or you'll have lines where you did that. And it will be a little bit hard to cover those lines because once it starts doing its thing, it's gonna leave an edge right there. I'm just kind of taking what little bit of color I still have on the plate here and spreading it across. And that's it. And that's all you gotta do. Now, you could blow dry this, you could let it dry. I'm not gonna worry too much about it. It is wet. I'm on a wood surface here. You could let yours dry. For the purpose of my video, I'm gonna keep going. You, depending on what you're on, you may wanna wait. But I'm gonna go ahead and get my back with a little bit of color. I'm not gonna be looking at the back of my piece. It's gonna go up on my mantle. And because of that, I'm really just looking to have a, I don't know, I really don't usually finish the backs of my pieces, but I am gonna put a little bit of color back here. So nothing too fancy. I do like this green. This green is called Early Spring. It's got a little bit of a blue undertone to it. And I picked it because there's lemon yellow in your kit. And if you want to take it to have a little bit of a greener undertone or a more yellow undertone, you can do that by just adding the yellow to it. It's fun to mix the stains. Okay, I'm not gonna go too crazy on the back, so I'm comfortable with that. And you're not gonna see a lot of this. This is just like a filler, like with any flowers, right? All right, I'm gonna set this aside, let that dry. And then I'm gonna do the front and the back of my vase. My vase, it's not a vase, it's a mason jar. Now, I have included, you can do any color you want. Let me clarify this with you. You can do any color that you want. This is your mason jar, okay? But I have included 3 colors that I think work with mason, well, really 4. 4 colors I think work with mason jars. Ooh, these are gonna tip over and drive us all crazy. Okay, I've got this color here. This is Undersea. It's like a darker, like beachy bluey color. It's kind of like the vintage jars. I've got a gray. It's called Tidal Wood. It actually looks dark in the container, but when you add water, it thins out really well because it's got a clear base to it. So it's kind of a light gray. White, you could do white. I've also got this spearmint color that you can do. I'm gonna do something. I've got some, I like to try to do something different every time I do one so that I can take photos of them and you guys can see them. So by the time I'm done all my videos, I have different colors. So I'm gonna do something a little different this time. I'm gonna do the spearmint this time because I've not done that. I've done the Undersea, I've got the gray, and I'm gonna try the spearmint and see what that looks like. Maybe a little light, but I'm gonna just kind of see, and maybe we don't like it, maybe we do like it. So I've got a wet brush again, always wet brush, always dip in, and then blend out. If you're more comfortable, you can take the stain out of the pot and put it onto your plate. Don't feel like you've got to work out of the paint pot. It may not be something you're comfortable with. Spearmint is a lighter color. If you do Undersea, which is the darker of the 2 bluey, beachy, vintagey colors, it is going to have a significant amount of color compared to what you're seeing now. Like you're not barely seeing any color right now because I had that custom made, and it is a little bit more like paint. You're going to need a lot more water than I need with this spearmint. So I want you to make sure that you're looking at that color on your plate. You might even want to make sure with that undersea that you practice on one of those little inside pieces before you touch your final piece, so that you don't have it be too dark and you don't like it. I mean, here's the thing, worst case scenario, if you put it on there and you're like, woo, that's too dark, you could either sand it or you could just use the back of this piece. So it's really hard to go so wrong that you can't find a solution. So I kind of like this color. I wanted to give you guys options. That's what I love to do. And remember, there's not, you know, I've only given you, I tried to give you lots of colors, and I wanted to give you more color than a ton of each color. So just watch what you're using when you're staining. And then I'm gonna go for this one. I just keep dipping in my water. And then just, I've gotten this really actually quite watered down in my little paint pot here, which is nice because I can almost use it right out of the paint pot with this color. You probably won't be able to do that with your undersea if you use that one, the darker color. You're likely gonna need to blend it on your plate, because that one has so much color. Okay. Now I don't tend to paint the edges of my pieces. I'll leave those burned. With stain, it's a little hard to cover them. You certainly can if you want to. It's your piece. It's up to you. I do tend to try to remember to come back and do like this with my fingers, because I'm a bit of a sloppy stainer. Got a little nice and heavier on that second side, but that's all right. I can pick which one I like when I'm done and put it on the front. I kind of like this one because it's letting the burn come through better. So I'll probably do this one on the front because it's a little less colored, a little more see-through-y looking. So I like that look. Okay, I'm gonna let these dry. Set that aside. And then last time I do this before we jump into our flowers. So this is the sign. And I think I'm gonna do, I didn't include a brown. I think I'm gonna do the gray on this one. So I'm just gonna dip into my gray a little bit off camera with water, lots of water. Watered it down. And with the gray, I can just go straight over. See how watered down it is? Just light. Just ever so light. I'll show you what my stain, that's what my stain looks like. Super watered down. Now if you went with a gray mason jar, you might go with a green sign or a white. We'll talk about white when we do the daisy. I think this will look nice on the a little bit contrast. You could do a color, that would be pretty. All right, let's jump into some flowers. So you have 10 flowers that fit into the jar. It's gonna be a tight little fit. There's a lot of flowers for this jar. And I'm gonna start with the white flower, because white's a little bit harder to deal with, and I want it while you're kind of alert and paying attention. So white, let's talk about white a little bit. So I mentioned the blue where you had to thin it down a lot. So white is a stain that I get in a solid formula. What that means is it is a lot more like paint. And because it's a lot more like paint, it's gonna be like paint. I recognize how crazy that sounds. So this has score lines on it, and you want to not see, I don't have a finished flower right here beside me. That's okay. You want to see the score lines when this is done, right? And we don't want the paint to fill the score lines and be white. We want it to be dark, right? So we need to water down our stain. And with white, you need to water down the stain a lot. And I'm going to show you. So I'm going to suggest with the white that you put it on your plate. With a very wet brush, I'm going to scoop up like that and put it down on the plate. And I'm going to just dip right back in my water again to get a lot of water so that I can thin this way down. See how that's thinned down now? Did you see how much water I really needed to make this kind of, it still even looks a lot more pigmented than my gray and my green. See that? It's crazy. You can see the white on the plate. So, but see it on the brush? I want you to kind of get a feel for that. Let me do it on one of these practice pieces so you can see it. That looks pretty good. See how that goes away pretty quickly? I do not want it to be, I'm going to show you what too much looks like. I'm dipping right in the stain, no water down. Actually, I had water in my brush. That's not too bad. I had a lot of water in my brush, so it's not too bad. But if I dry my brush and dip right in there, see how that looks like paint? And if I put that on that flower, that's going to fill those score marks, so that's too much. You want it watered down for one reason only, so that it will actually go into the score marks, okay? I'm going to fill my brush up with this thin down white. And now because it's so thin, I also don't have to be so precise about my painting skills. I can come straight across like this. See how I'm going against the grain? And if you look closely, you see it's flowing right down those score marks. I can go around the center and not have to panic about being the perfect painter, which if you guys have followed me for a while, you know I'm not. I'm pretty good at creating methods for working around what I'm not good at. Go get more stain. I start kind of in the middle, away from the center, and then I work out and then in. And notice that I'm turning the flower, not my brush hand. I get a position that's comfortable with my hand. And then I turn the flower around. There is part of this thing here that is the stem. And then don't try to get the white to be bright white in one coat. You're gonna need 2 or 3. So here's one coat, and you can see it is already whiter, right? But I'm gonna go back and do a second coat while it's wet. You can go ahead while it's wet and get your second coat on. Again, going against the grain, just for speed. If you want to go every single petal, you are welcome to do that. There is nothing wrong with that. It just, my brain can't do that. That's too slow. Okay, so that's 2 coats. What I like to do is let the second coat sit for a little bit because I might like that color. It might be bright enough, it might not be, but I'm gonna let it dry. And if I let it dry, it may want another coat, but we'll see. So I'm gonna let that dry. And then we're gonna move on to another color. We've got lots of colors. I'm gonna move to this Cosmos here because I wanna try, this is a new color. I've not even used it yet at all until right this minute. It's called Tangerine. I picked it up last night. I have no idea what color it looks like. I had a feeling it was gonna look brighter than it actually is. They usually do. Let's see. Oh yeah. Pretty. Kind of looks like orange sherbet a little bit, but not quite as bright. That's pretty. Notice again, I'm going against the grain. I'm thin down. The only thing I'm being careful of is that center, because I still haven't decided what color I'm going to put in the center. If I'm going to put something that's darker than this color, I could just go right over it. Like if I was going to put a brown or something like that, I could do that. I didn't give you guys a brown, but you could. You could use a brown from home. Like if you had paint, you certainly could mix. That's a pretty color, isn't it? I like it. Looks like a creamsicle orange. Yes. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going. So this is a poppy. We're gonna do a poppy, and there is a poppy color. You don't have to use it, but I am gonna show you a technique with this poppy. So with the poppy, we're gonna do a little bit of yellow and then a little bit of poppy. So the first thing I'm gonna do though is the poppy. This is poppy, so it's a little, this is the poppy, this is that tangerine. Super wet. Again, always just kind of dipping the corner. I work it into the brush on the plate because I don't want a ton of non-watered down stain to hit my piece. And then I'm actually gonna do a dark gray in the center of the poppy. So I'm gonna do this. And I actually want that poppy to be much brighter than that. So I'm gonna go fill my brush again, but I'm gonna go a little bit heavier with the amount of stain I picked up. Oh yeah, look, do you see that? Now, I will tell you it's not flowing enough, so I need more water. So I just dipped my brush right into my water just to get a little bit more water. All right, okay, so see this color? That's interesting. A thinned down version of poppy looks very much like tangerine. That's not good, but okay. Now I'm gonna go straight on. That's better. That's what we want. We want a bright poppy color. Okay. Yes. Much better, right? Okay. Now, here's what we want. I'm gonna leave my poppy brush and I'm gonna get my little detail brush. I'm gonna get it super wet, and we're gonna get a little lemon. Super wet, it's even dripping. I just want a little bit of lemon. I'm gonna brush it into my brush. on my plate, and then I'm gonna take this brush. Watch, all I'm doing is dipping it right in my water, okay? So that it's really wet, not so wet that I'm losing all the water. And I'm gonna go right around this part. I'm dabbing, all I'm doing is dabbing. It was so wet that what's gonna happen is, and my piece was still wet from where I stained it. So it's a little bit like watercolor. They're gonna kind of blend together naturally. So I'm just dabbing to get a little bit of color highlight right in the center there. Now I'm gonna rinse my yellow really quick to get a clean brush. And right along that edge of that yellow, oh, hello, that was a lot of water. I just dropped a whole big old, well, it didn't hurt it, but I'm just gonna take my clean brush. Oh, hello. Mailman is picking up my orders. Anyway, I'm taking my clean brush and I'm just pouncing right along the line where they touch so that they blend. Now, last thing I'm gonna do with this poppy brush, I'm gonna dip it in the water. I'm not swirling, I'm just dipping. I want it wet. I'm gonna kind of come back here. See how wet that is? And I'm just pouncing to make sure I didn't lose any color, the poppy color. I'm just pouncing that right along the edges. And see, it's very, very wet right now. Very wet. All I want to do is leave this. If I were to tip it up, it's a lot of water. It's going to run off. I don't know if you can see how wet that is. It's fine. I'm just going to leave it. Don't touch it. It will soak in and dry. Okay? Leave it flat. Okay. We're going to move on to the forget-me-nots for a second. And we're going to start with, since we've got yellow and this detail brush, I'm going to start with the center. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the yellow, work it in like we've been doing. The centers of the forget-me-nots, these are forget-me-nots, are yellow. And I'm just going to pounce. It's easier to pounce in these small spaces, I think, than to try to brush like in circles and stuff. I don't know how to brush like that. I just pounce. And with stain, all you're trying to do is like control what comes off the brush to land inside this score mark. So nothing too fancy. All right. And then the little ovals that make a star shape around that are white. What did I do with, there it is. And I want to make a little bit of white paint. And I'm going to see if I can get close and show you. All I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to use my finger and make sure I don't have a ton of water right here. I'm just going to touch. I'm going to make sure this is, see how I'm touching? Now with white, and I'm looking at the angle that I'm doing this to, the smaller they are, you might just need 1 or 2 touches. My little brush has this weird thing on the end. I don't know what's happening, but I'm just watching it. It's not the best. I must have done something to the brush, but that's okay. Anyway, you may need 2, maybe 3 coats on these. Again, white's not something that we try to do in 1 coat. So we're gonna do just real quick. I'm gonna set it down because it's a little harder for me to do it like that. Now that you see what I'm doing. I've got this weird thing on the end of mine, but if I turn it the direction of this oval, it's fine. It's like the bristles need to be trimmed, but it's okay. All right, I'm gonna see how mine looks, and while I'm waiting on that, I'm gonna do the blue. You have Island Blue. You could add a little white to this if you wanted. You could add a little gray if you wanted to kind of change your color palette. You could do a different color. You don't have to do the colors I'm telling you to do. So feel like you can mix it up, but just add water like we've been doing. You could use the smaller brush if you're more comfortable getting into these spaces with that. I'm just kind of, notice I'm holding the bottom of this thing so it doesn't move away from me. And I'm going over the lines on the petals, but I'm not going over the white and the yellow that I already painted, obviously. But the good thing about this blue is you don't have to worry about the lines between the blue petals. If you don't know, if this is your first time using the stain, and is water-based, so if you get it on your hands, no biggie, just wash your hands. Yeah, the forget-me-nots were suggested by one of you guys. I hadn't done forget-me-nots, and I like them. I think it was a pretty ad. Let me get a little bit more. Sorry, sometimes you can't talk and focus. And notice that I don't water down the entire paint pot. I just do a little dab at a time and use that up and then get a little bit more. All right. I think this Island Blue works because they're very light in color. All right, so this is our palette so far. I love it. Okay, let me go back real quick and let's add some centers. I've been doing Wild Honey, which is this lighter orangey color. I've been using that for the center of the daisy. You could do lemon. You could do the new tangerine. You could do, well, honestly, you could do any color. You could do poppy. But I've been liking that color. And then on the Cosmos, I think I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna do lemon. Bring out a little lemon right here. And again, notice I'm just kind of pouncing in this tiny little space. You don't have to brush or feel like you have to control a brush in this tiny space. Just with a wet brush, it's gonna flow a little bit. All you're doing is just controlling it. Yeah, that's pretty. We'll come back and do the stems in a minute. Okay, this poppy, so you see the little lemon that we did. And then on the center, I'm gonna do gray on that center. Notice I keep rinsing my brush. You just keep rinsing. And again, I'm gonna pounce. Tiny little spot here. I got lots of water again. What is it with this poppy? I put lots of water on this poppy. And then I'm just gonna, I gotta let that set again. All right, now let's keep going. So this is an echinacea coneflower. You can do them lots of colors. I'm gonna do it in the purple that I've been doing, and maybe some pinks. So I'm gonna do a dark purple center. This is gonna be a little different this time than I've been doing. So this right here is cherry blossom. It is very bright compared to what it looks like. So just take a little bit on a wet brush. See that? So I'm gonna do that as my center, I think. Even though this is a very bumpy detail, just take your time. And I'm gonna do pink petals. These blossom pink petals. You could do any colors you want for any of the flowers really, but coneflowers come in lots of colors. If you have trouble getting up into the little grooves, you could grab the smaller brush and then just get up in there just by touching, pushing some of that stain right up in there. Love it. All right, so we are halfway done. Let's keep moving. This is a mum. I'm gonna do the mum. I think I'm gonna do the mum in the wild honey to get a little bit of that wild honey on a bigger section of flower. And I'm just gonna do the whole thing. Just like that. The rest of this is green. So I'll come back and get the green all at one time. It's a little mum piece. Okay, this is a Cosmos also, which we did in tangerine, the other color, but what else have we got? Let's do, maybe we'll do a little mixing. What if I take some of the blossom pink, put that down. And if I just carefully, well, let me rinse. I don't want to mix my colors in the containers. And then I'm going to pull some yellow. And so we're gonna see what we get. We're gonna get an orange of some kind. And then I'm just gonna grab some water, water it down a little more. It's a whole different color orange. Love it. Love it. And then it looks a lot like wild honey now that I'm looking at it. I'm gonna add a little that's okay. That's okay. I made wild honey. That was unexpected. It's a little darker. We'll take it. Okay. Now this is a western part of the state color or flower, but I gotta be honest, I forgot what it's called. We're gonna make a, I'm gonna mix some of this purple. I'm gonna put some white down, and I'm gonna try to get a little bit like a lavendery kind of color and see if I can get that. Yeah, see that? And then, so that was the purple color. Oh yeah, that mixed it better. And white. And I'm just gonna carefully go around the edges a little bit because that's got white in it. Make sure I've got enough water in there to have it flow. Oh yeah. And I think on this one, in the center, I'm gonna do that dark purple that I mixed with the white as the center. That'll look nice, I think, with that. So now I've made another color that didn't come in your stains. This color would have looked good in the echinacea too. It looks like an echinacea color. But I rinsed out, and I'm actually going to use a smaller brush and do this. Is so I did water with this, but it's very, it can be pretty dark. This is the same purple. Just to give it a little variety. And two more. All right, so then we're gonna do, I need more white, so I'm gonna, this is also a daisy, so I think I'm gonna stick with the daisy theme on that one. Do the white over here. If you find your water gets very colored, you may need special white stain water. Mine looks okay. So just keep an eye on that. And if these petals are too small for you to manipulate with this flat brush, get the smaller one. Doing a lot of pouncing and letting it move around on its own. And I think I'm gonna do this one white too, because I wanna have that pop of white in between all these colors. to have some contrast. I might do just these coats of white and see, it might go a little bit cream, which works. All right, let me do the center of this. I'm gonna do, where's the lemon? We'll go lemon in the center of this for a little variety. And then let's do our greens real quick for the stems. Now I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this big brush. I'm gonna take some of this green. I'm gonna set it right here. I'm gonna show you. And I'm gonna take some of my lemon. And I'm gonna make a second green color right there, so that I've got two greens now. I've got the regular green and now I've got a lemony green, and I can mix and match my stems a bit. I've got a lot in this because I just mixed with it, so I'm gonna go ahead and use that up. I've got a big dog right behind me. Can you see him? We'll go ahead after I finish. Okay. Pretty. I'm gonna probably use this one on the ones that have a little yellow hue to them. Just because. And then we're gonna build this baby. I hope you love these wildflowers. I've made a lot. I've enjoyed doing the videos and making them and doing all the tutorials and the TikToks and it's been fun. All right, so we'll do half and half. Do one more. And then I will do the rest in the other. So it'll be a little bluer, a little darker. Maybe not darker, a little bluer. Beauty of this is you really don't have to you know, you don't have to be a stain perfectionist. Doesn't have to be perfectly even because the wood's gonna pick up what it wants. Okay, okay. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. Okay. All right. Now I'm gonna glue together the main mason jar, and then I'll come back and we will assemble the flowers. Okay, so I did a speed job gluing mine together really quick. Take your time with yours. I would do one piece at a time, and just kind of make sure they go together. You can see that some of my edges are a little bit off, but I'm not too worried. I just wanted to make sure I could show you how I put my flowers in. So here's what I like to do. I'm gonna put this down and I'm gonna see if I can do mine backwards so that you can see. And I like to play with them first. I chose to do mine to the back. If you do yours in the middle, you're gonna need to split your flowers in half, do half on the front, half on the back. But you'll do this, same method on both sides, but make sure you split your flowers in the way that you like. But I'm gonna just kind of play around, and you have 4 layers to put flowers. 10 flowers, 4 layers. So kind of think of it that way. And they have direction, right? So I think this one likes to hang out over the edge. So I like to do that with this one, so that you can see a lot of it. So see how that looks. Same with the daisy. I designed it to be to the side, so this one can hang out this way. The echinacea is a good one that can kind of stand up, but here's another thing. So you can also, they don't have to touch the bottom of the hole in the mason jar. You can glue them taller. So if I wanted to, I could glue this one kind of up here, even though it would be way down here if it was touching the bottom. So we'll kind of see, that's why I like to do it laying flat, my layout, because I might want it a little taller. So I'm gonna do that, and then let's see, my little poppy, she's cute. Let's see, I've got my 3 white flowers. I'm gonna put my daisy kind of right there. And I got 2 purpley flowers too that I might split up. The other thing you can do is angle, or this sounds very harsh, but you can also break the stems. So if I wanted this a lot shorter, I can angle it like this. But if I didn't have room for that, I could break it off. So I kind of like that purple in the front, but we'll see. Let's see how we like the mum. The mum against the tangerine is very pretty. Put the little white maybe in there. This is a big one. I'm kind of really getting them all. I need to come, I'm getting a little too out the side. Let's put you up there. Get some height going. And then I can do this, right? This comes up, I can put this like right there. And then I can put I like that look. Okay, so I'm gonna, these are to the front, so I'll put those down a little bit. Now I've got to glue. I'm gonna glue them. You don't have to glue, but I am gonna glue mine. And you've got a little bit of glue, so use it out of the pot. I'm gonna use mine out of my bottle. I don't go crazy. You just need right, little bits of glue. Just glue wherever it's gonna touch. So this is not gonna touch over the edge there. It's gonna touch back here and a little on the stem because it'll touch there. And then this will touch on the stem and back here. I'm gonna have that hang out a little down further. I'm gonna do that like that. Now this one's gonna only touch on these sides because it's gonna touch those 2 spots, which works. And then let's bring in this baby razzia. See where it touches, and then I can put some glue on it. I think it'll touch the stems, so I'm gonna put a little on the stem. Okay. And then, of course, I'm changing it a little bit, but that's fine. We're gonna do what we do, right? let's get this in here. I think we had, I need to mix up my colors a little bit. I like the poppy. I'm gonna put the poppy right at the top of the, so it's gonna be right on the rim, right there. And the glue will dry clear, so I'm not worried about that little bit of glue there. I could have even put glue so it would have touched the top. I'm gonna put this. They're obviously still drying. I'm gonna put this right there. That's good stability right there. And it's actually going under this flower on the stem, so that's helping stabilize it underneath there. I'm gonna add, I'll bring that up. Got to make sure you don't see the ends. Woo. She moving, get back in there, stay. You know you wanna be right there, get in there. Hold still. I think I might need to move my mom. Yeah, I think my mom was causing a little friction there. That's fine, fine. Oh, and I got this one. Let's do this. There we go. I put this in. Yes. Yes. Like it. And I might, let me see. Kind of hard to do upside down, I will admit. That's a little challenging, but I think I'm gonna put this, if I can fit it, just because of that way it's angled, right there. Let me see, hold on. Yeah, that was hard to do upside down. Love it. Okay, now I'm gonna do my little sign. A little label. Put this on the top, on the bottom, in the middle, wherever you want. And then, and I'm gonna give you quick and thick, type on quick and thick, so it will be, so see how that's on? But it's not cured, so it does need to cure overnight. It will be quick, but it still need to cure. And then you're gonna have a long length of twine that you can tie into a bow around if you want. I don't think I can tie them upside down. I'm better right side up. And I probably could have gotten one more length out of that. But that's your jar. And if you got custom flowers, yours will obviously look very different, and you're gonna have to figure out where to put them, how you want them, play with them. With your quick and thick, you have a little bit of time. As you can see, I can still move the front flowers, but the back flowers are done. So lay it out on your own first and then put them in is what I would say. And I could easily get 2 more wraps out of my twine, but you do what you like. I hope you love it. And if it's as a gift, I hope they love it. All right, you guys have fun with these.